So hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day today and welcome to another video. Now, a couple of weeks ago when I did my iPhone 15 Pro Max review specifically on gaming, a couple of you guys in the comment section noted to try to test with the new iOS 18 game mode and see if that made any difference. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. And just like I noted in my previous iPad Pro review, I'm going to be testing on both the iPad Pro M4 and the iPhone 15 Pro Max to test out the game mode that came in iOS 18 and see if it does anything to improve the sustained performance specifically for these devices, especially the 15 Pro Max, because that thing has a pretty big heating problem in terms of the sustained gameplay experience. So yeah, we're going to be testing two games today. We're going to be mainly going through two of them, which is Zenless Zone and Assassin's Creed Mirage. And the reason why I wanted to test these two games is because under certain settings, these things can really hammer the GPU and CPU of these Apple Silicon chips really hard on these mobile devices. So with Zenless Zone, we're going to be testing 120 FPS gameplay because that has been an area of contention of really bad heating issues, especially on the older iPads and iPhones. And then Assassin's Creed Mirage is a AAA game that obviously is very graphically intensive. I mean, it's literally a console port. Also, over here, we also have my thermostat gun here. So we're going to be checking out thermals after maybe like 30 to 40 minutes of gameplay, and then we're going to be timing it just to see that we actually hit the 30 to 40 minute mark to figure out the temperatures. Also, unfortunately, I don't have any software or hardware to accurately track the frame rate of these devices, so this is all going to be based off of feel more than anything else. So if you're looking for a more scientific and more like detailed gameplay, then I would suggest looking somewhere else, maybe like Digital Foundry once they have something released there. But all of the findings that I note here will be based off of feel and how it was playing with these devices. So keep that in mind. All right, so first let's start off of Zenless Zone Zero on the M4 iPad Pro. Now, I'm going to be playing this with a controller, so just keep that in mind. So you won't see my hands, and I can't play touch controls for more than 20 minutes. So change out the touch controls. And as you can see here, we are basically in terms of graphics, we are going to be hitting 120 FPS. Now, settings don't really matter on Zenless as much. It's mainly the FPS cap that really hinders and heats up this thing. So we're going to be testing that. Let's go ahead and start up the gameplay, and we'll just go ahead and play for about half an hour. So go ahead and start it now. As we play with a couple of rounds and a couple of combat missions, I gotta say, I am very impressed. From what I can tell at least, performance is basically flawless. I couldn't notice any major drops at all, if at all. For 95 to, I would say like 96% of me playing through this game for the 30 minutes for the test, this game ran beautifully at most likely over 100 FPS at the settings, which is very good. Now, temps wise, after the 30 minutes, I did see some pretty hot temps, so 44 to 45, which is definitely not the coolest thing, obviously, but at the same time, the fact that it can still sustain that really high FPS without having to throttle itself with the really hot temperatures is quite good. And with game mode basically trying to minimize as much background activity on your iPad or iPhone while you're gaming, it's definitely going to help with getting the most out of your performance with the high thermals. I'll shut up right now and we'll talk more about the performance in the next benchmark, but here, have some gameplay, enjoy it. So it's a new day and new day for testing. So we're going to be testing Assassin's Creed Mirage. We're going to be testing it with both the case and without the case on. We're basically hitting around that 27C mark. So very, very cool iPad for the most part right now. So we'll go ahead and hop into it and just play some Assassin's Creed Mirage, I guess, and see how it goes. So as you guys can tell by the title of this section and basically the footage here, you can see here we're running at the max settings, so high settings. Assassin's Creed Mirage at launch was quite the mess in terms of port. It was very, very unoptimized for the most part, but after a couple patches, it seems to have stabilized now. And as we're playing it right now, you can see here we're still at 30 FPS, but we're nowhere getting those significant drops from the launch, which is quite good. So playing through the game on the M4 iPad Pro, even at 30 FPS, the game runs absolutely fine on this iPad Pro. One thing though I do hate about specifically the iPad port of Assassin's Creed Mirage is because of the aspect ratio and how lazy Ubisoft was with this port, they literally did not even correct the aspect ratio. So even though you're playing Assassin's Creed Mirage on the iPad, it's still going to be scaled as a 16:9 game with bars, which sucks, but it's whatever. For the most part, the game runs relatively smoothly at that 30 FPS mark. I didn't notice any major dips even at the very dense city environments and, running away from the palace in this scene here. Now, I do want to make it clear that this isn't a perfect port. Like, even though I am seeing stable performance for the most part, there are certain areas where the game stutters, mainly to load specific zones or maybe to load more NPCs into the map. So performance isn't perfect, but I think it's stable enough to be playable. Now, after spending around like half an hour completing the prologue and going through parts of chapter 1, I believe, temperatures for the most part has stabilized around 45 degrees Celsius, which is basically around the same of the Zenless Zone 0 test, which makes me think that this is sort of the ceiling for the iPad's cooling system. Like, it can't get any warmer and it can't get any cooler. But even at this pretty warm, really toasty state, it's still running relatively fine, and I'm quite impressed. With how toasty this thing felt, I was expecting some thermal throttling and some major performance dips, but barely saw any, if at all, so pretty good.
I do not lose these guards. I will not be safe for certain if I do not lose these guards.
Surrender yourself, boy. There is no use in hiding.
Huh? Where are they?
Can't avoid me forever.
Now, going in and testing the same prologue scenario without using a case on the iPad, there is a small improvement in temps. Like, I was seeing a 1 to 2 degree difference, which is a difference, don't get me wrong, but the iPad is still toasty and still pretty warm, and even without the case, I would not play this game with touch controls. I think for the most part, if you're going to be playing any of these games at all, I seriously recommend a controller, not because touch controls are worse or anything like that, but more so that way your hands don't get sweaty when you're playing on your iPad or iPhone. So yeah. Performance wise, I didn't see a massive difference though, even with this slight improvement in thermal heat management. It wasn't really a massive difference. I didn't see any like noticeable improvements. The game still like stutters during loading scenarios and all that stuff. So definitely seems to be based off of the game's fault and not really the hardware's fault. So Yeah, I mean, still performance is pretty good and it's still playable in my personal opinion, but using a case or without a case on the iPad specifically, I didn't notice any discernible difference in performance. So that's pretty good to see.
Run!
Nihal, wait! Father! Oh, get that boy! Hold on, that boy! Hey, see there! Catch you on the back! There you are! Got you! No one will pass me! There you are! I hate you there! No!
She just... What was she thinking? I need to find her. She would have gone back home.
All right, now moving to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I do want to show that I am not using a case for the iPhone 15 Pro Max because I'm trying to give it the best shot that it can, since the 15 Pro Max does have a heating issue when it comes to playing games. I mean, this chip really puts a lot of heat on the phone. So yeah, going to Zenless Zone 0, and strangely, Zenless Zone doesn't have a 120 FPS option for the iPhones, which I find kind of interesting, but testing 60 FPS, we're going to start off with the medium preset, or mix of medium to low, and playing through the game with these settings, it's a pretty fine experience for the most part. I didn't see any major like dips to like 30 FPS. It is relatively stable speaking at the medium preset. Now, I did try and test higher settings on a single scenario just to see how much performance it would impact. And as we're playing through it at the higher settings, you can see that we are also running relatively fine, though there are more frequent drops and frequent stutters from what I can see, especially in scenarios where there's a lot of action going on and you're doing some chain attacks. I did notice some more hiccups there. I did retest the scenario with the lower medium settings and that seemed to have stabilized it. So I think for right now, I think this game runs completely fine at the medium settings. Now, that's not to say that the phone doesn't run hot while running it. I mean, even at 60 FPS medium and without the case, this phone still runs relatively very warm. And testing the temps here, as you can see, after like a 30-minute playing session, we are at around like 45, 46 at the hottest point, which is definitely very, very warm and not ideal if you're someone who mainly plays on touch controls. So yeah, I'll shut up and show you guys some gameplay, and you guys be the judge on whether or not you think this is a playable experience or not for you.
No escape. I'll do my best. Find your weakness. bit sloppy.
So the last one on the testing block is Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I think this one's the most interesting just because I actually have footage of me playing this game on the previous iOS, and from my review you can see the gameplay was very, very stuttery in the open world. So I was very curious to see how iOS 18 game mode could help with that performance. And so going into playing through the prologue here a little bit, I can tell you this right now, frame rate is much better on iOS 18 game mode than what was before. Running at the medium preset, I can definitely say there is an improvement here. It's much more stable, and in the open world, you do have the occasional dip and stuff trying to load in everything and load parts of the world, but for the most part, it is nowhere near as choppy as it was in iOS 17, which is very, very good. Now, temps are still very hot, looking at the same around 45 degrees Celsius, but I can say here that playing through this on iOS 18 is a definite improvement over 17. So that's a big plus.
Basim. There is nothing we could.
Nothing! If the Khalifa were alive, this would not have happened!
Watch where you point. It was your idea to steal from the palace. Also, that you can impress your cunning friends.
You killed them! This. I hope I never see you again.
Hurry! Die! The pleasure was ours!
All of them dead. When it was me they sought to punish. I cannot be here. I cannot.
You won't escape out of every last one. Surrender yourself, boy. There is no use in hiding. He's pulling away!
So now wrapping up everything here and just giving you guys my overall thoughts on testing the performance on iOS 18 game mode. And I gotta say this, I'm very impressed. Game mode, especially on the iPhone, is definitely a good improvement over 17 without it, and the minimization of background activities has really seemed to help the devices really push the frame rates and settings that they should be able to push. And what I found most impressive was how well they performed even at their hottest. I was not shocked to see that game mode didn't really help with improving the thermals, but the fact of the matter is that even at their warmest, which is around that 45°C mark, at least in the environment I was testing in, they were still able to maintain that performance and frame rate, and that's very, very good. It means that even at like 30+ minutes of gameplay, you still will be able to get that good performance and you won't see any massive performance dips for long gaming sessions. Now, that's not to say that you should play this game on touch controls. I mean, given how hot these devices can get, I would strongly advise you playing with a controller. Not just because the controller, in my opinion, is a superior experience for these types of games, but also because you won't be touching your hot screen when you're playing it, and you know, that could be a massive relief for you. So yeah, overall, I think that I can recommend iOS 18 if you are a huge mobile gamer on your Apple device. I think from what I saw here, this is definitely an improvement and a nice quality of life upgrade for you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Let me know what other testing vids you want me to show. And you know, if you want me to try more detailed testing, I'll definitely try that next time. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Later.